So who is it that we're talking to? We're talking to young men. We're talking to newly married. We're talking to been married 20 years. Like, who are we talking to?
Well, I think we're talking to all of them. Whether you're a young man, whether you're in your 30s or 40s, married, single, I think that the basic values of masculinity, which are sadly being forgotten, apply to everybody. And it's important, I suppose, for the future that the young men embrace this, because they are the future.
Okay. And let's talk a little bit about you and what your background is, and why should people listen to what it is that you have to say?
Yeah, well, that's funny. They really shouldn't. So, if you're smart, you won't listen to me. But no, actually, a few years back, I started working on a few books, and although they're not published yet, I wrote a book for women on relationships for women called The Truth About Real Men, and it was based in a seminar that I wrote for women and gave around the country for a few years. And I started doing corporate leadership trainings, and because they were pretty successful with the companies that I worked with, the basic principles, even with the work around relationships and working with men over the years, because about 30 years ago I started working with men on a regular basis, and mostly for myself. I think. I mean, it's hard to see where the line actually was, where it was all about me trying to get my own act together and helping others at the same time. So, but those kinds of things do kind of flow organically.
Yeah.
And as we serve others, we also get a lot of lessons for our own life. And so, again, all of that worked in with cooking and chefing and photography and working on movie sets and TV sets, and how to do that, how to survive, really, because I think sometimes it's about survival,
right,
on set, so you can do your job well and go home, and then they want you back,
right,
and I was able to do that for more than 30 years, so that's a beautiful thing, and I've been able to work with a lot of really, really talented, powerful human beings over the years. So I brought all of that together to do what you and I are doing together now, which is reaching out to a much larger audience that I've been working with. And hope that they'll embrace it.
Yeah. So going back to when you and I first connected, you were working with men, and you're dealing with men at all different points of their lives. You're dealing with men who are just now leaving the nest, just now forming their own nests. Some of them are married, some of them are not, some of them are fathers, some of them are not. And you meet these men where they are, and then develop them into who it is they want to be, or who it is they're going to be. Right? Well,
yeah. We were talking about listening earlier. At every stage, what's important is to listen to them and find out what it is and who it is that they want to be, and what they want to, the results they want to create in their life. Right? Men are very connected to legacy and results. We're sort of taskmasters. We're task-oriented, and when you're task-oriented, results are very important. And it's at every stage of the game, it's important to listen to them and find out what it is they truly want to create, what's really going on for them. And the thing is that for younger men, actually men at any stage these days, but especially for younger men, they don't have the tools. They haven't been given tools to where they even know that those are questions they should be asking themselves.
Okay.
And so there's a gap.
Yeah.
And if you're not asking yourself hard questions, then you're not going to get the hard answers. You're not going to, But so my job, at least how I integrated into working with men over these years, is that is asking questions that they really should be asking themselves. So it's, again, not about me. It's not. It's very funny and weird, I think, to me, when I've known someone for a really long time and worked with them, had them go through my leadership training classes and other classes that I've done over the years, and I've created all kinds of different programs and trainings and weekends and all of that kind of stuff, and have someone come up to me after not seeing them for a long time and tell me that I changed their life, and that they're or you said something to me and it changed my life, and of course I don't remember a thing about what I said, and then but the truth is that I really didn't do anything. Maybe I said something, but change is a weird word. So let's get really clear about what we're going to talk about.
Okay.
And it's a word that you'll hear in a lot of the self-help world, different companies and functions and things and weekends and processes that are out there. But I think it's a good word because it more accurately describes what really goes on, and the word is transformation. So change is okay. We can use the word change because ultimately at the other side of transformation, something has actually changed.
Right.
But the process isn't actually the process of change. The actual process is a process of transformation.
Okay.
And as we transform as a result of the work that we put into or put toward transformation.
Okay.
And we're going to talk a little bit about that, I think, today, about things that contribute directly to the changes that we want to have happen. And again, going back to how I relate to younger men, which is finding out the results they want to create in their life.
Yeah.
Especially, say, in 10 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15. What do you want to have accomplished?
Okay.
Over that time.
I think the root of it all has to come down to a man being of good character, right? I mean, in order for you to be a real man, there is honor involved in that. There is, discipline and consistency, stuff like that, right?
Yeah, I know the bad words, right?
But are they though? Are they really? I mean,
well, these days they seem like they are. It's.
How is honor a bad word? No, honor's not a bad word. There's no way that honor's bad.
Well, the thing is that it's not, but it in itself. The problem is that it gets batted around and used constantly by dishonorable people, and so it doesn't mean anything.
Okay.
It starts to lose its significance and
what's it
and its weight. Well, okay. So we're going to talk about honor. I presume that's kind of where you're going with this, right? So we'll talk about honor. So for all of you, whatever age you're at right now, and it doesn't matter if you're old like me or young, hopefully you can relate to what we're going to talk about in terms of men and honor. And it goes back to really tribal, ancient hunter-gatherer times.
Okay.
And there's a process. So if you all haven't studied, sort of the human evolution, at least from a modern standpoint, at least you understand, you've seen, about cavemen, and you know about that at some point we started gathering together in larger circles and larger circles.
Right.
All right. So
some of them were tribes, some of them were clans.
Tribes, and there were, without getting too complicated or deep into historical facts and stuff like that, but you can look it all up. It's all there. Mm. Some of these nomadic-ish tribes started grouping together and creating small towns for the first time. And we're talking about thousands of years ago. I mean, maybe 8, 10, 12,000 years ago. They even have some potential evidence that it as much as 20 to 30,000 years ago, that fairly good-sized towns came into being. They disappeared. So did the people that created the very first ones, and they don't know why, but maybe because they had bad water. I don't know. I mean, you never know. But
yeah.
But ultimately, this was done in order to not only be more productive, but also for protection. Mm-hmm. And as these towns or small villages got larger and larger, the jobs got more specialized.
Yeah.
And the differentiation in duties between men and women started to get much more codified, and men took on very specific jobs, and even among men, the jobs started to be more specialized as well. But the problem is that, coming out of a time where, we were chasing down animals and throwing spears and, rocks or whatever, from the Stone Age to the Iron Age and Copper Age and all of that kind of stuff, it seems very primitive to us now, but, they had to figure things out. And it's not like they probably figured it out instantly, but over time they figured things out. And one of the things that men figured out, the male part of society figured out, is that they, being larger and more aggressive, were perfectly suited for protecting and hunting. And that took them away from the women and children. And so they spent a lot of time away from the village, or at least on its perimeter, for those whose jobs were to guard the village and protect the women and children, right? And not just the women and children, their food sources, their water source. I mean, a lot of these early towns were built in places that were clearly built to protect their resources.
Okay.
Their access to water, their access to food. They built them where food was very plentiful, and they wanted to protect that.
Right. So we've got hunters, we've got guards, we've got farmers.
All these guys,
everybody's got their job, and
they've all got their job. But here's the thing, all of those jobs are like over there, and the women are over here, and raising children and doing the things and being as very much a viable part of that society as they needed to be, and probably joined in on some of the hunting, or at least the gathering. Mm-hmm. There's evidence of that, but ultimately, the men spent so much time away, and they developed their own way of being together that was very different than the way the women developed being together. In fact, a lot of that happened without language, and because if you started talking, you scared the animals away, or you gave away your position, or whatever it was. It wasn't good, right? It wasn't conducive. And they also developed trust. They had to trust each other.
Okay.
And trust is a big part of honor. Since we're talking about honor, ultimately, if you haven't figured out, we kind of had to go a long way around to get back to honor, but they had to develop a way of relying on each other, and in an honorable way, and in a trustworthy way, and this is huge, and it didn't just extend to the men, because when the men came back from the things they were doing out over there, they were very rough and wild in many ways. And as they came back to the village, the women who had been developing society, and it was much more polite, and because they were raising children, and the men's behavior was just not acceptable to them. So a way to deal with that was that we developed codes of behavior. Codes of behavior when we're at war, or hunting, or gathering, or protecting, whatever it is. We developed these codes. And we also developed codes of how we needed to be when we were in the village with the women and children, so that so it all worked. Because we couldn't behave the way we behaved out there at war in the village. It wasn't conducive to society, right. Really. So men developed over time these ideas of ways of being that are honorable and acceptable, and a way of trusting each other and being honorable with each other. In other words, not doing things behind each other's back, or giving away another man's position, not violating a trust, or gossiping or talking behind his back, and then that could cause all kinds of problems for him and his reputation. I mean, so over literally the thousands of years that have transpired, we've ingrained all of that, this sense of things that are honorable to us, ways of being, and into our character as men. And today, it's very odd, because after, say 100,000 years or more of this kind of conscious and unconscious work, that in a very short period of time, we're losing our connection to that. We're losing our connection to what it means to be honorable. We use the word, but we don't act the word. We don't behave honorably. And in fact, we often mask dishonorable behavior by being aggressive about talking about honor. But the truth is that lying is not honorable. It never has been. If you lie, your men can't trust you. And if your men can't trust you, they can't take you with them. Yeah. Whatever they're doing, you can't go into battle together. You can't stand guard and protect the women and children, because you can't be trusted. Okay. And so dishonorable men, and untrustworthy men are dead weight. Okay. They become dead weight
to society.
They're not. They don't have a value anymore. They lose all of their value.
Dead weight to society.
To society, but also to that masculine culture, that masculine value system that was developed. I mean, look, and I understand everybody is going like, yeah, but it's not like that now. Well, a little bit it is, and if we lose all of it, God only knows what a mess it's going to become. Okay. Because those values that are separate from the values that women develop work together. The values that the women developed worked hand in hand, really, with the values that the men developed.
Okay.
They work together. They work together. And when we lose them, we don't know how to work together. We don't know how to interface with each other. It becomes very difficult and hard to know what your place is.
Right. So, at the bottom line, what would be the definition of honor among men?
Honor among men is when you have your character is at such a level that you will never sell out your men, the values that your men stand for, the trust that is given you, and that you honor that trust. Because we have to honor the trust that another man gives us, as well as and the way that we honor the trust is, of course, by returning the trust. About being, I don't know, there's so many things. I should have actually brought the definition, and in fact, maybe we could stop for a second.
Okay.
And I could go grab the definition here. So because I've written this stuff out, so let's do that.
That's fine.
Cut. Okay, so we're now loaded with technology, and and I realized I wanted to say something to all the older men out there who tend to be technology averse. You need to let go of that.
Embrace it.
And because we're not going back to the dark ages, even though we talk about it.
Yeah.
And it's not that hard. Most of the reason that you have difficulty with it is because you tell yourself that you have difficulty with it. So let go of that and embrace it, because technology is amazing and we can do such incredible things. So we've brought in some technology, and we're going to keep this with for our future podcast, which is this dictionary. And it is possible that sometime in the future we will make this available to all of you men out there for the low price of $29.95, and or free. I'm not sure which, but
we'll get the website up and everything.
Yeah, well, when we get the website up and running, we'll have that. Yeah. So the question was,
the definition
of honor. So it's good to stop whenever we're looking to define something specifically. It's good to go to the dictionary.
Good point.
Very, very good thing. And although I can talk around it forever and ever, it's best to just get right on it. So the definition here, and there are a couple, but the best one that I like is honor is integrity. It's a noun, by the way. Integrity in one's word, moral beliefs, commitments, obligations, duties, responsibilities, standards, code of conduct, and actions.
Okay.
Honor is achieved by adhering to one's ethics or moral code, hence code of honor and code of conduct as cornerstones of honor. Being honorable will garner dignity and self-respect. It is a measure of a man's character. Mm-hmm. How honorable you live is a measure of your character. We developed our codes of honor to operate and survive in a civilized society, as we just talked about, where women and children are around most of the time. Right. A good code of honor will prevent a man from being brutal, abusive, or sociopathic in society. Mm. It enables men to exist and thrive where they are not genetically predisposed to exist.
Okay,
we're really predisposed to go out there and eviscerate, hunt, kill, get things done in a sort of a dirty work.
Okay.
It's dirty work that men often do, and in order to be able to do that, we have to put polite society behind us, and in order to get that done.
Yeah.
But in order to come back into society, then we have to adhere to a code of honor and a code of conduct.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's more like, I don't want to say civility, but almost. Right?
It's a way of being able to operate in civil society.
Okay.
It's And remember that if you don't have one or know what your ethics are, then it's very hard to adhere to them.
Mhm.
It's okay. It's and a good way to begin all of this, and this is a theme that we're going to come back to again and again, whether it's honor or character or whatever we're talking about, standards, is that you have to pay attention to your actions. You have to know what you do and how you do it, and even more importantly, at some point, why you do it. Great warriors are very learned men. They've always, throughout society, most of them have been very, very learned men, and poets, even artists, and yet their ability to be great warriors was all part of that they were very, very well rounded. They were aware of themselves, and it allowed them to be aware of their surroundings.
Okay.
And they could conduct themselves. And and since we're talking about honor, while we're on the subject, it's this idea of soldiers versus warriors comes up a lot.
What's the difference between soldiers and warriors?
That's a really, really great point here. And by the way, we can actually go to the technology once again, and we can take a look at this and it's worth taking a look at. So I'm going to tell you what a soldier is, and then we're going to talk about what a warrior is. So now I'm at the R's, and now I'm at the S's, and here we are. I don't have soldier in here.
You got a dictionary right over there.
I do have a dictionary, but let's I may not have warrior in here, and now I realize I got to add it.
Okay.
So
you were saying this conversation about soldiers versus warriors. How did this even come up?
Well, it's because a great example was like during World War II, a lot of the soldiers that were part of the death camps used it as their excuse when they were on trial for war crimes. And they said they were just following orders.
Okay.
Well, a soldier, even without it being in the dictionary here, a soldier follows orders and without thought and without question. And even if the orders violate their very essence and core values, they will do it anyway, as a soldier. Okay. So a definition of warrior here: a man with the experience, wisdom, and skill in fighting or battle, who is able to make strategic decisions by taking into account a high level of both self and situational awareness, and is driven more by his adherence to a purpose than directly following orders.
Okay. So a soldier can develop into a warrior.
Yes.
Can you go the other way around?
A warrior will never be a soldier.
A warrior will never be a soldier, but a soldier can become a warrior.
A soldier can become a warrior.
Yeah.
One who has achieved. There may be moments where it is appropriate for a warrior to behave like a soldier in following orders.
Okay.
But again, that his awareness and actions are driven more by his adherence to a purpose than to just following orders. If an order violates purpose, a warrior will tend to not follow it.
Yeah.
And by the way, if he doesn't, there may be consequences.
Yeah.
And warriors will accept consequences.
Yeah. Hey, now here's a visual I got from listening to what you said. John Rambo.
Yes.
Okay. In the beginning, he was a soldier.
Yes.
And by the time he gets to those jungles and everything, he's a warrior.
He's a warrior because he's driven by a purpose.
Yeah.
The second definition that I put in here was one This is warrior, definition 2. One who has achieved a level of mastery to the degree to which he is able to turn anything to his advantage in any battle or life situation.
Yeah.
All right. So becoming a warrior is about mastery,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll continue because there's a third definition here, and I think it's worthy to mention it. So a warrior carries and acts upon a larger context and higher purpose, where his decisions are made with careful consideration, not only to the final results, but how they will affect the lives of those involved.
Mm-hmm.
So he takes into consideration a lot more information before he acts. Pretty sure they got that. So I'll say that one more time. A warrior carries and acts upon a larger context and higher purpose, where his decisions are made with careful consideration, not only to the final results, but how they will affect the lives of those involved.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Okay. So honor is a big deal to a warrior. And for a soldier, the only honor, of course, is following orders. That's it.
Okay.
Very simple.
Yeah.
So let's talk about. You mentioned something else here, which is 'cause I'm going to skip over a couple of things and go to code of conduct.
That's fine.
And then we'll come back to talk about some character qualities.
Okay.
If we've got time.
No, we're good.
Okay. So code of conduct is very similar to what we were talking about, a code of honor. And in other words, it's a list of things that determine how you do stuff and maintain honor.
Would you call it rules?
They're deeper than rules. They're bigger than rules. Rules can be broken at times when it's appropriate to break a rule. Men like to break rules. You know that.
Okay.
It's like
but a code is different. You don't break a code.
We like to break rules. We somebody puts out a rule. It's not any good unless you can break it. But there are times where rules really need to be followed.
Okay.
And it's good practice.
But a code is different, though. Code is stronger.
It's a code is something you adhere to, and they're not flexible. Not that rules are particularly flexible, but there are moments where you may have to break a rule for a higher good, right? For a higher purpose.
Okay.
Right. It's like okay. So, and again, the overall subject here is honor. One of the things we used to talk about is honoring the truth as a code, right? Honoring truth. Mm-hmm. But honoring truth doesn't mean telling the truth, because sometimes if you tell the truth in certain situations, people may get hurt. People you care about may get hurt. So it's not the way that you honor the truth is just not telling it in certain situations.
No, that's
But you
big.
must be aware of what the truth is in order to be able to do that. And there are times where telling the whole truth is imperative, whether it's in court or in a particular situation among men where it's important for men that you're close to know what's really going on. So you have to tell them everything. You can't leave out stuff that are uncomfortable or might not make you look the best in a certain light, right?
Because not honoring the truth is dishonorable.
It is dishonorable. It is dishonorable to not honor the truth.
Okay.
So code of conducts and codes of honor are things that we embrace, and it's not something someone else creates. Even if it's something, well, maybe I said that wrong. It may be something someone else creates, but you can embrace it as if you created it yourself.
Okay.
But until you do, it's not a code of conduct for you. All codes of honor and codes of conduct have to be fully embraced, or they're not. They don't exist. They could be written out. You could, sounds like a great idea, but if you only, observe the code when it's convenient, then it's really not a code, right? And,
Okay.
And hey, look, we're not going to get into politics here. I want to avoid, political statements and right or left or middle or up or down. Who cares, right? This isn't about that. This is just about our conversations need to be about the truth, and
not bending the truth.
And not bending it. Yes, of course, definitely not bending it. But if something's talked about again and not observed, then it doesn't exist. And you will notice all over in politics today, and it doesn't matter what parties or whatever, that people bat this stuff around a lot, but they don't actually observe it. So it doesn't really exist.
Okay.
It's just words. It's just words. And in the process of developing character, our personal character as a man, in the process of developing that, we have to be clear who we want to be, what codes that we embrace, and that we can't break them. They cannot be broken for any reason whatsoever. Men stand up and say that they're all about democracy, but they sell it out in the next breath.
Right.
And so they're not really about democracy. They're about their ego. They're about power. They're about maintaining something that they're afraid to lose. But they're not about what they say they're about. They're not really about freedom or democracy. They're really about themselves. And it's sort of, and if you think it's just today, that's a crazy thing, because this kind of stuff goes all the way back to long before the Revolutionary War. And, because people of in power don't want to lose it. So they will sell it out. They will compromise. They will compromise their integrity, their ethics, their character, in order to maintain something they're afraid to lose. But real integrity, real ethics, real character is when you stand up for it no matter what.
Okay.
And here's a really interesting way of looking at it. How do you conduct yourself when no one's looking?
That's integrity.
That is real integrity.
Yeah.
And a real measure of character.
Yeah.
That you do the right thing even if nobody will ever know.
Yep. That is what I learned as the definition of integrity.
Yeah.
Is doing the right thing even when no one's watching.
Even when no one's watching.
Yep.
And let's take it to another level, since really the subject here is developing good character, and we're talking about the honor and codes of conduct, is that that you stand up for what's right, even if you're going to get hurt, even if you're going to lose power.
That's a warrior.
Because it's for the greater good. It's because a warrior does. He looks at the whole situation.
Yeah.
Not what he may die. A warrior will sacrifice himself in order to save others. Look at the warriors that have thrown themselves on hand grenades, to protect the other men in their foxholes. Men that stayed behind so that others could get away and live to fight another day.
Okay.
All right. And it is a sacrifice. Without sacrifice, then we're not really committed to being honorable. All commitment requires sacrifice. And I'll say it one more time, just in case you didn't get it. All commitment requires sacrifice. Now, how much sacrifice? I don't know. I mean, it just depends on what it is.
Okay.
But in sacrifice, it could be the ultimate. I mean, we honor veterans all the time, and we say that they made the ultimate sacrifice. They sacrificed their life. standing up for what's right, politicians will sacrifice that and democracy and freedom in order to get reelected. But it's not just politicians. It's everybody these days at all different levels. When you are afraid to lose something or sacrifice something that you think is important, then you will compromise your integrity and your character and your honor. And there was a time where most men wouldn't do that. And were they better times? I don't know. I mean, they were different times.
Yeah.
Is that something that should exist today? I think so. I think at least ideologically, we all probably agree on that. That if we all lived with integrity and high levels of character and honor and trust, and we all embraced a good, and when it comes to embracing these codes of conduct and codes of honor, they've got, look at them to make sure that they're worthy of your life, that they're worthy of who you are and as a human being and as a man.
I hear what you're saying, but I'm seeing us in this world that we're in right now and hearing what you're saying about a code of conduct and honor. I see those things as being selfless acts where we live in a selfish world. True.
And look, men are, you're going to hate me for this, but men are sort of naturally selfish. And it requires something of us to raise ourselves above some of our natural ways of being, some of our self-centeredness and our selfishness, and we our egos like to be all about us, but we don't honor those. They don't build statues to men that live that way. And in fact, men that live that way don't really accomplish a whole lot, and are often quickly forgotten. So we have to decide, is this the way we want to continue being? I mean, is just living at our lowest day-to-day, scrappy level okay? Is that what you want? Is that how you want to go through life, and be forgotten quickly, and not leave the world any better than you found it? And honestly, I think that to be a good citizen, regardless of what society you're in, what country you live in, to be a good citizen isn't about voting. It isn't about politics. It's not even, although it's a good idea, not even like stopping for red lights and stop signs and things like that. We have this thing in California we call the California roll, where nobody ever actually stops for the stop sign. They just kind of inch their way through it, and you all know what I'm talking about, right? It's not just California, but we have to start looking at something higher than that, better than that, bigger than that.
Humanity.
Or they're just community. I mean, you don't have to go to humanity level. I mean, there are those who have lived at humanity level, and we know that often they get assassinated, because the world has a hard time with human beings that live that purely and that of service to others, right? But we can work within there's a pretty large area underneath that most of us can live and be able to give back, and to give and serve in such a way that the world is a better place, that we didn't spend our lives just taking the whole time. To me, that's dishonorable, actually, to just come into the world and take and take and take and take until you die. And then you're forgotten. and the people that that if you had children, then you produce children that just take and they die, and then they're forgotten, and eventually everything's all used up. And there are other ways of being, and arguably certainly higher levels of being. I want to avoid saying better ways of being, but those ways have to be chosen. They don't just occur. They don't just like boom, instantly, we get a little bag or a pill and we take it and we become honorable and full of integrity and live a life of service to others and make the world an incredible place. But it takes work.
Yeah,
it takes work, and you can't be lazy. You can't just sit back and be lazy and expect somebody else to do it.
Right.
So
it has to be a conscious decision.
Yeah, it has to be, and which is why when I said earlier about the men and women that have come up to me over the years and said, "Oh, you changed my life," and it's no, they did the work.
Right.
I didn't do the work. I did the work for me. I can't do the work for you. You have to do the work yourself. And maybe some of the scary stuff is when you realize that how much work is available or needs to be done, that it's intimidating. But it doesn't have to be, because you can, no matter what level you're at, you can only do one thing at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And if you just focus on one thing at a time, there's some, I wouldn't say miraculous stuff that happens, but it seems like it is, because in the process of just taking on one good thing at a time about yourself, we call them disciplines, really. That taking on a discipline or a standard or a code of conduct or a code of honor, taking on a commitment and being of service to those things, just one at a time. What'll happen, and of course everybody's going to go, "Oh, it doesn't really." Well, yeah, actually it really does. All of the other things in your life come up as well, without having to focus on them.
Okay.
So when you're focused on one thing and you improve that, and it comes up in your life, you raise yourself up through the work that you do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it's work. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it here. It's work.
Right.
It's not something you do once in a while and hope for the best. It's something you have to do every day and be consciously aware of it and never quit on it. You can't quit on this kind of work.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
So that's the bad news. But the good news is, in the process of working on like one thing diligently and making the sacrifices that it requires, other parts of your life start coming up with it. And there'll be like things that'll happen out of the blue, and we call them happy accidents. They're just, stuff happens. And it's great, because they may not look like they're connected, but in lifting one thing up, you're really lifting everything up.
Okay.
So when men tell me, "Oh God, there's so much," I get overwhelmed and all that kind of stuff, and I'm like, well, that's because you're just trying to take on the world. You're trying to take on all of it at once. Just take on one thing.
Right.
Because doing that one thing will bring other things up. And when you get really, masterful with that one thing, where you don't even have to think about it anymore, it doesn't have to be so conscious, because you've done it so much and you've been so conscious with it and repetitive with it. And you mentioned earlier consistency. Consistency is another bad word, right? Because all these because and the reason I say they're bad words is that they require something of you. You don't get them for free.
You have to do the work.
You have to do the work. And
so
you
have to do it every day.
And you have to do it all the time. And
there's no days off.
And incorporate it into who you are.
And even when you're on vacation, you're still in this good character. You still got to be honorable. Still have to be consistent. Still have to have a code of conduct. It never stops.
It never stops. It just never stops. So yes, it's kind of a bad word, but not really. Because in the end, you'll notice other things happening, and once you get to that place, that level of mastery of habit, if you want to call it a habit, that it's become habit now, as it's just integrated into who you are, then you're gonna take on something else and work on that, just one thing at a time. Mm-hmm. And so, trying to take on 10 things or even 2 things for men. I mean, look. Men, you're simple. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. One thing at a time. Don't try to take on the world because you're going to fail. You're going to fail taking on everything.
Right.
So master one thing, and then master another thing, and then master another thing. You can't master 100 tools at one time.
Okay.
If you want to master a hammer, you're going to have to hit a lot of nails every day for a long time.
Yeah.
And then it becomes just natural and a habit. And then you can go on to something else and master that. But you can't master the hammer without hitting a lot of nails.
Yeah.
You got to whack those things. So the last thing that I want to talk about, and I'm going to bring this up hopefully a lot in maybe even all of our sessions.
Okay.
From now on, is caring. And since the overall subject matter right now is developing good character, and one of the aspects of a man who has developed good character is caring. But there's a problem with caring.
What would that be?
I know, you ask. And, and the problem with caring is that it can't be taught. It can be observed. What can be taught is the importance of it, the value of it.
Okay.
But even those things will not cause someone to care. To care is something you must find within yourself. It must be a place deep inside that it's a journey that you have to take within yourself to find that place that cares. Because on the surface, we're all about, we're men, right? We're men. We have egos, and we like to win, and we like to be successful, and we like to do stuff and accomplish things, and we like to make things about ourselves, right? We're a little selfish and self-centered, and we like to look good and make it about ourselves, and that's all fine. Like you said, at some level, it's all fine. But that won't get you the kind of places we're talking about. The reason we're doing this podcast, right? We're doing this to help men raise their self-awareness,
right?
Their skill, their ability to become disciplined, and their ability to care. And that means it is not about you. Okay. That means, as you said earlier, this idea of being selfless.
Yeah.
Selfless. Selfless is when it's just not about you, that it's about others. It's about, again, sacrifice. It's that place that without it, you can never become a warrior. You can never become a warrior without care, because a warrior without care is just a brutal killer. He's not a warrior. He's just a brutal killer. He may be a very smart, accomplished, brutal killer, but he's not really a warrior.
Okay.
Okay, because the ethics aren't there. Without care, the ethics can't come into play. Without the care, he won't sacrifice himself for others. Without the care, he won't go out of his way or do whatever he can to ensure that his men don't die in battle. All right, he's always looking at the greater good and protection of others. And without care, you can't do that. You can't get to that place. You'll overlook it. It's like a really big black blind spot without care. So in order to round all of this stuff out about developing good character and becoming a great warrior, and look, when we say warrior, we're not talking about going out in battle anymore. I mean, there are men that's their job, and unfortunately, there still has to be that job. Right.
But what you're saying is more of
I'm saying about the warrior in your life, a warrior for whatever your purpose is, whatever your higher purpose is.
Yeah.
The reason that you're here, that you're actually in battle to be in service of that. So that's what we go to war for now. I mean, all of us that are not in uniform, right? Okay. So we go to be in service for a greater good, for others, and it is a selfless act. And this concept of caring is what will rounds it all out and takes us there as a warrior.
Do you think there would be people that would say that it's not masculine to care?
Why would they do that? I mean,
because masculinity is like tough, and you think about strength and power.
Well, all right. Okay. Do you think Gandhi was a warrior? Because to me, Gandhi was the consummate warrior. He was one of the most powerful warriors on the planet. That among the top human beings who have done things to change the world for others, for millions.
And his strength and power wasn't physical. It was...
Well, it was at times, because that man fasted to the point of death. That man stood for non-violent protest. And it cost him his life.
Okay.
Of course he was a warrior.
Okay.
And of course, caring, anybody that doesn't think that caring for others is an essential part of being a warrior isn't a warrior.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're just a brutal killer.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And without the caring, men become brutal. Men, with our egos, we weaponize them. We weaponize that ego, and it brings out the brutality inside us.
Mm-hmm.
And without the caring, the brutality tends to run away with us. And it has. So we've got, literally thousands and thousands of examples in history of where whole cultures, the brutality ran away with them because they lost their care. They had no caring. I mean, because you can't kill like that and care at the same time. It's impossible. And a warrior, or a true warrior, won't allow that to happen. He won't allow the brutality to carry him away.
Okay.
Just for the sake of killing for the sake of killing, which is what happens. It perpetuates itself, and then it's all about the control, and it just becomes a whole mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And it's terrible. It's not a good place for men to be.
No.
And men go there. It's an easy place for us to get to. Unfortunately, it is. So what is it that and why are we talking about developing good character? Well, we're talking about it because it's one of those things that allows us to be better and to build. I mean, because look, we're either building or we're tearing down. I mean, that's it. That's what we do. That's what men do. They're either building something, or they're tearing something down, and without care, it gets pretty dry and it gets pretty brutal, and it isn't good for society, and it's not good for our relationships. It's not good for our children. It's not good for the women in society. We can't be our best. We can't give to them. So, and in order to be able to give to women and children in society, you have to care. So it's an essential part of it. And here's something else that goes with it. All right. And like I said, I'm going to bring this as often as I can remember to bring it, which is kindness. Kindness is not feminine, nor is caring. Okay. It's human.
It's human.
It's human.
Okay.
All right. It's not defined masculine. It's not defined feminine. Kindness and caring are human traits. We're human beings. Doesn't matter whether we're male or female or LGBTQ plus. We're human. We're all human, and we have a lot of things that define us as humans and connect us together. Even with our differences, there are threads that run through all of humanity, and kindness and caring, generosity. These are qualities that don't have a label on them other than human.
Okay.
So, and a warrior knows this. Powerful warrior uses all of these things: his caring, his kindness, his generosity, and he brings them to the people in his life, and he does it consistently and regularly.
Got it.
He has to.
Yeah.
I mean, he has no choice. He knows that because of his code of conduct and his code of honor, he has no choice but to do that. And so, so for you men who may be in relationships that are not where they need to be or should be, struggling in them, and marriages that are struggling, what I suggest as a great place to start is to get out of your ego and start connecting with your caring and your ability to bring generosity and kindness to the relationship.
Okay.
And then just see where that goes. just start there and try that out and get good at it, and do it just like a regular discipline. Make it a standard in your life, and bring that every time that you're with your family and with your wife or your girlfriend or just everyone that you love, and all of the people that love you and care about you. A warrior will bring those qualities to those people and make sure that they are benefiting from your presence in their life. And maybe you haven't thought about it that way. Maybe you haven't thought about living your life so that everyone benefits because you're there. Because if they're not benefiting from you there, then what's the point of you being here? What's even the point of us like being anywhere if people aren't benefiting from our presence?
Mm.
And are they? I mean, and maybe if things aren't going well for you, maybe it's time to stop and take an assessment about how you're being. And I think maybe that's a good place to stop the podcast today.
Okay.
Which is just go be kind and generous to the people around you. And see how that works. It will not lessen your masculinity. I promise you.
It can't hurt.
It can't hurt. I know that. I know for sure that's a piece of advice that at any degree that you implement it will not hurt you.
Yeah.
But with one little caveat, which is do it without any expectation.
Ooh.
Do it without expecting anything in return, because it's not kindness and generosity or care if you expect anything back.
Okay, well, that right there sounds like the next episode.
And that sounds like the next episode,
right.
Which will be expectations.
There we go, expectations. All right, so thank you for joining us on our inaugural episode of our podcast. I think I want to call this podcast Be a Man.
Be a Man. Okay, I can go with that.
We'll see how it works.
Absolutely.
So for now, we'll call it Be a Man Podcast, and we thank you for joining us.
Thank you.